Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. Coming up on Roland Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Folks, as we enter day 3 of the rapidly escalating U.S.-Israeli war against Iran, missile strikes are intensifying and global tensions are rising. Civilians are scrambling to evacuate. Lawmakers are clashing over America's role in this conflict. Also, stock market dropping, gas prices going up. What is going to happen? We'll talk with Dr. Nola Haynes, national security expert, about what's happening in the Middle East. 3 states are holding votes today, but all eyes are on Texas and North Carolina. The U.S. Senate primaries there could serve as a key test of voter enthusiasm and party strength as we approach November. Today's Senate Judiciary Committee hearing featured dramatic moments as they jammed up ICE Barbie, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem. Trust me, they really were in her behind, and not just Democrats, Republicans. In a significant case, the attorney of an Illinois black woman and her family, who were awarded $5.7 million in a settlement after the Chicago police wrongfully raided her home in 2022, will join us. A legal team for the daughter of an unarmed man who was unjustly shot and injured by Los Angeles Police Department officers. Also, here to tell us about a $3 million California jury awarded her after they found the officer's action not justified. And folks, in Tennessee, a committee has proposed designating a day in honor of the late racist Charlie Kirk. Well, guess what? Republicans sponsored the bill, but Democrat Representatives Vincent Duke and Justin Jones, they were lighting them up. And in tonight's Black Star Marketplace segment, our Shop Black Star Network Marketplace segment, we will address a common issue that many women with natural curly hair face: shrinkage. The creative curl prep will be here. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Remember it.
Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. Yeah, it's all go, roll, y'all. Yeah, it's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Folks, day 3 of the U.S.-Israeli widening war with Iran, and nations outside the region are struggling to evacuate hundreds of thousands of their citizens from countries now in the line of fire. Of course, Italy is doing so. The United States, not. They weren't even prepared. Wait till we show you what Secretary of State Marco Rubio said. The Israeli and U.S. bombardment of Iran continued as Iran's retaliatory missile and drone barrage at Gulf nations intensified. Israeli forces reportedly pushed into Lebanon to halt Hezbollah rocket fire. During today's bilateral meeting with the German Chancellor, ABC News' Rachel Scott asked Donald Trump why the U.S. struck first when they were in the middle of an actual negotiation with Iran and other regional countries.
Mr. President, did Israel force your hand to launch these strikes against Iran? Did Netanyahu pull the United States into this war?
No, I might have forced their hand. You see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that. And we have great negotiators, great people that do this very successfully and have done it all their lives very successful. And based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first. And I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand. But Israel was ready, and we were ready, and we've had a very, very powerful impact because virtually everything they have has been knocked out now. Their missile count is going way down. Amazingly, they're hitting countries that were, let's call them neutral, right? They lived together for a long time. I think they were surprised. I was surprised. I think and now those countries are all fighting against them and fighting strongly against them. Someday they'll write a story and they'll say why they did that. But they hit countries that had nothing to do with what's going on. They were sort of leaving everything alone. All of a sudden they had missiles shot in, which shows you the level of evil that we're dealing with. They'll hit people that were actually at least somewhat friendly, and they had no problems with it. Also hitting only civilian places, hotels and apartment buildings, and we're hitting them where it is much more appropriate. We're hitting them very hard. And the big scale hitting goes now. They no longer have air protection. They no longer have any detection facilities at all left. And so they're gonna be in for a lot of hurt. These are bad people. These are people that killed. I guess it's 35,000. It's coming out 35,000 over the last 3 weeks. Protesters, 35,000 violently killed. So these are bad people, and the leader of the pack is gone. And as you know, 49 people were taken out in the first hit, and I guess there was another hit today on the new leadership, and it looks like that was pretty substantial also.
Okay, House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries blasted Donald Trump for spending taxpayer dollars to launch foreign wars instead of making life more affordable for Americans.
On the campaign trail, Donald Trump and Republicans promised not to get the American people into endless, failed, foreign, forever wars. And yet Donald Trump has just gotten America into an endless war that he acknowledges and plans to be endless, as was the case earlier today. And we've already tragically lost the lives of 6 American service members because Donald Trump, without justification and without coming to Congress, has gotten America into a Middle Eastern war that we know will not end well based on what we've already seen in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and for that matter, in Vietnam as well. Donald Trump and Republicans have consistently lied to the American people over and over and over again on matters related to both domestic and foreign policy. These extremists have been a complete and total disaster. They have consistently failed the American people. And Democrats are here to offer a better path forward.
Folks, here's how insane this is. Other countries are literally airlifting their people out, even though you have airspace restrictions. You saw the video on social media of Italians really excited about it. You got so many people who are trapped. I saw the story of these live golfers are trapped there. They can't get to a tournament in Hong Kong, so many others. And so it's not like folks weren't prepared for this. Well, then again, they weren't, because Donald Trump is so dumb. And when you just decide to go, well, what the hell, we're just going to go ahead and start bombing, then you don't properly prepare. Any real administration would have a plan of action 4, 6, 8 weeks out, 2, 3 months, and they'll be methodically removing people and getting them out of the country. Nope, not these fools. Here's Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Listen to this.
Was there a plan in place to evacuate Americans before the attack took place?
Well, that's the plan we're trying to carry out. The problem is, or the challenge we are facing, is airspace closures. If a country closes their airport, for example, in some cases the airports have been hit. So the airport in Kuwait was hit. So if an airport's been attacked or the airspace is closed, then we can have the planes lined up to go, but we can't get them to land because we don't have the permissions to land there. So that's the challenge. But rest assured, we are confident that we are going to be able to assist every American. As I told you, right now we have about a little over 1,500, maybe closer to 1,600 Americans requesting assistance, and we know that we're going to be able to help them. It's going to take a little time because we don't control the airspace closures. That said, there may be more people out there that need help. We need to know who you are. So please, I'm asking the media, publicize the phone numbers and the website, because we need people to call in so we have their name, we have their contact information, we have their location and their request.
All these are dumbasses. Donald Trump has been threatening for 2 or 3 months. He's been threatening Iran. If you know that the likelihood you're going to strike, what you do is you say, we're telling all Americans, you might want to leave. That's actually what you do. Yeah, not just Iran, but other countries. Because if you know how Iran is going to respond, because you have foreign policy experts, you have intelligence experts, you listen to them. But when you're Kash Patel and you fire all of your Iranian experts in the FBI because they participated in the raid against Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, which was their job, this is what happens. So the administration that's always yelling DEI is filled with a bunch of incompetent people who don't even know how to execute a military action. Makes no sense whatsoever. So we can go on and on and on, folks, with this, because what we're seeing is, and again, it's left and right. And so Donald Trump also, they're giving us numerous rationales as to why we're in war. Well, is it about Iraq? Is it about the people? Is it about oil? Is it about, I mean, it's like, it changes, it changes, it changes, it changes, it changes, it changes, and it's just absolutely insane. But that's what you can expect from this administration. All right, where do we go from here? What is going to happen? How do we deal with the carnage? Joining us right now is Dr. Nola Haynes. She is with the Georgetown University School of Foreign Service, joining us from D.C. So, Nola, we sat here and listened to Donald Trump. We knew Donald Trump was sitting here and he just making it up. I mean, my God, yesterday, he's at a news conference and then he turns around and starts talking about the gold drapes. He executes this, they launch this, and he's down at Mar-a-Lago at a glitzy fundraiser, as opposed to where you have the seriousness of this matter. You're at the White House Situation Room and you speak to America in an address from the White House. And so for people, so before we get into other different people, explain to people this insane, precarious situation that we have with Iran, a country that used to love us, but has despised us for more than 70 years.
Well, there's been a lot of back and forth. That's for sure. But the first thing I want to say, be very clear about, Roland, Donald Trump lied in that tacky Oval Office. Iran was not coming for us. How were they going to come for us? The last time I checked, they did not have intercontinental ballistic missiles. So that is a straight out lie that man told to the American public and the rest of the world.
America.
Because, can you hear me?
Yeah.
And the thing is that you know why he told that lie? Because the reporter gave Israel credit in a weird way. Like basically Israel got you into this, but Donald Trump couldn't go there. So then he told the lie that no, actually we did because Iran was going to come for us. That is not true at all. But to your point, we have had a very interesting and rocky relationship with Iran going all the way back, 40s, 50s, 70s, or multiple eras where our relationship has been strained. And this by far is one of the strongest memories in our very storied history, that it is at its most tense. And we did not have to be here.
Okay, so for the people who don't understand, Iran used to have a Democrat elected governor who loved America. Mossadegh was the prime minister. Well, when he decided to say, I think we should be getting more money back from our oil.
When he nationalized it.
Anglo-Iranian Oil. The company was called Anglo-Iranian Oil. Y'all know it today as BP. It was like, yeah, we ain't down with this. But England was not trying to actually overthrow Iran. America said, hey, we good. We'll do it for y'all. So what we did was we stirred dissent in the country, created economic conditions on the ground that led to people being pissed off, and then all of a sudden we go in, overthrow Mossadegh, then we install a general. He then doesn't follow our orders, so we get rid of his ass, and then we put in the Shah of Iran. He comes in, very oppressive, human rights abuses. He has these trained thugs, trained by our CIA, to repress the country. He leads from the early 50s through 1979. 1979, we have the Iran hostage crisis. The problem, Nola, is in the United States, we only frame Iran from 1979 forward. None of these networks. I remember being on CNN and Michael Ware was having a conversation with Christiane Amanpour, and I was waiting to go on, and I'm listening to them discuss Iran, and I was like, yo, is anybody gonna talk about Mossadegh in 1953? So we only tell Americans that the Iranians, they're awful, they're bad people. They took over our embassy in '79, but we never want to talk about 1953.
I mean, I agree with that, but I actually don't think it matters, because in Trump's America, truth doesn't matter, facts doesn't matter, and history definitely doesn't matter.
Here's why it matters. It matters because when you have framed this as they hate us, they want to tear our country.
No, I wasn't done. No, I agree.
Yes. So I think it does matter. We know MAGA ain't smart, but I just believe that the problem in America is we don't like hearing the real story of our foreign policy around the world and how we have contributed to a lot of this stuff because of our actions, which oftentimes comes back to oil and money.
But I think a lot of Americans do know that. 1 in 5 Americans are only buying this story. I mean, to say that for the last 47 years that Iran's been killing Americans, that's just categorically untrue, and it's false. And I'm not saying every American knows that, and I'm not saying that every American knows the details of our relationship with Iran, but to some degree, from what I'm hearing from people, is they do understand that we have not been, quote unquote, at war with Iran for the last 47 years, because to your point, they decided that they don't like the supreme leader, who has been the leader for the last 46, 47 years and has been an oppressive leader. So to your point, that is the narrative in which they are going with. But from what I'm seeing, Americans aren't really buying it.
Yeah, well, first of all, let's be real clear. When you look at the polling data, one of the reasons why Americans are not buying this war is because Donald Trump ran on 2016, 2020, 2024.
No more wars.
No new wars, no new wars. We should stop spending all this money fighting wars. Then he also said, we got the tweets, got everything else. Oh, Obama, when he's going to be in trouble with poll numbers, he's going to bomb Iran. Joe Biden's going to bomb Iran. And guess what? Conservatives are ripping him. Donald Trump is now firing back at Megyn Kelly, firing back at Tucker Carlson. Charlie Kirk was also speaking against this here. And so he created on the right, and remember, you have people like, oh my God, you had all these progressives who were saying, my God, Donald Trump is more of a dove than Biden and Kamala Harris. And now all of a sudden we see what is going on here. And so that's contributing to this, but also the shifting rationale as to why in the hell we were doing it. We were in the middle of a negotiation. Let's talk about that, because Obama negotiated a deal. Obama negotiated a deal when it came to Iran's nuclear program. Trump's like, oh, deal sucked, I'm tearing it apart. So he was negotiating a new one, which was essentially same as the old one. And according to officials in Amman, Iran agreed with all of America's conditions, and he was like, no, we're going to listen to Netanyahu, and we're going to blow their ass up.
Right. So last year, when I broke the news on your show that the United States was going to attack Iran, I talked about JCPOA quite a bit. And JCPOA stands for Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which is also known as the Iran nuclear deal. We do not have to be here. We do not have to be here. I need people to really understand that. This is a fabricated situation. to what ends, I mean, there are a lot of speculations, but there's one point that I need people to understand. China is an interesting factor here, Roland, because Iran and China have a 25-year trade and security agreement that they signed in 2021. And while right now China and Russia are kind of playing it back a little bit, they are the ones who are offering up surveillance to Iran. It's a reason why they know where U.S. military and civilian assets are in other Emirates and Gulf states. So this is a very interesting part of this, where China is stepping in to fill in that diplomatic void that we've abdicated. You are also now having to factor them into the global response. And that part of it is going to be very interesting. So you have the situation where, as you opened up, you have Gulf states, you have, Emirates waking up to 5-star hotels in Dubai being bombed. Didn't nobody want that. It did not have to happen, right? And now you have Europe trying to figure out how they're going to move. Now you have Gulf states trying to figure out how they are going to move. And right now it looks like they are giving the United States assistance, but let's be clear, because they don't want the drama in their own sovereign territories. All that lying that Donald Trump did in the tacky Oval Office when he was talking about, oh yeah, they're partnering with us now and all these different things. He's making it seem like everybody's on board because they agree with what he and Netanyahu has set out to do. That is not the situation. What Trump and Netanyahu has done is put everybody in a situation no one needed to be in. And let's not even get to the point we may not even have enough ammunition for Trump's forever war or whatever kind of version of war he wants this to be.
Well, one of the things that I find to be very interesting, and again, so let me preface this by folks who will sit here and go, oh my God, are you pulling for Iran? No. If you're Iran, you know strategically, and when it comes to the military, the might of the United States. You understand that. But we can go back to Vietnam of what happens when we have might, but we face a country that operates with different tactics. So
absolutely,
what Iran does, first of all, Iran is firing missiles at U.S. air bases in these surrounding countries. So they are harming places where America could be releasing assets. America is pissed off because Spain said, nah, y'all can't use our stuff. Donald Trump literally said today, we can do whatever we want. No, you actually can't. You just can't just say, we're just gonna land at a base that's controlled by Spain or the UK or the French. No, you gotta get permission.
The international system
you even
was
have
built
to
constrain a Hitler Trump.
Right, you even have to get permission to use another country's airspace. So this arrogant, I'm a king, can do whatever I want, he's now realized, no, you can't. And those countries, to your point there, those countries have relationships with even countries like Iran when it comes to oil, when it comes to resources. So they ain't always rolling with us.
No, absolutely not. And I've been waiting for the Strait of Hormuz to close, which it actually is. And while we don't get oil...
No, don't run past that. Explain to the audience what the Strait of Hormuz is and why that's huge.
Well, I was getting to it, Roland.
Well, yeah, but you just mentioned that you gotta explain it. So my job is to make it for the people who don't talk this stuff every day. So before you make the point,
I was going to explain it because I've been explaining it.
Well,
so
let's
let
go.
me finish explaining it.
Let's go.
The Strait of Hormuz, which is responsible for about 45% of the world's gas and oil that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Okay. Now, why is this important for the United States, considering that our largest oil partner is Canada? It matters because what happens around the world also affects us too. So China is Iran's #1 trading partner, China, Russia. And so if we are messing with them, with their economic bottom line, you best believe they are going to figure out a way for us to feel that pain too. So when you open this up, you talked about the stock market and you talked about rising gas prices. And when people ask me all the time, why does foreign policy matter? This absolutely matters for your kitchen table. This matters for your bank account because everything is going to shoot up. and in terms of price. So the Strait of Hormuz is really important in all of this in terms of imports and exports. And let me be clear, Iran is taking an economic hit here too, because they get a lot of their money from exports. And so by them closing it and saying anyone who passes this boundary, you're going to get the business, that means that they are dug in, Roland. They are willing to take the financial hit. They are willing to take the military hits. And they warned the United States, y'all come for us, we will come for you. And to your point about the arrogance, we did not listen.
Again, for the people who don't understand, because again, I think it's, let's just be clear, a lot of folk don't live and breathe this stuff every day. Just same thing with the Panama Canal. It's called the Panama Canal because controlled by Panama. When we talk about the Strait of Hormuz, the reality is that is in, hold on, let me pull it up here, because I want people to actually see this so we can understand the role that Iran plays in this. And so it's a waterway. Go to my iPad. So folks, you'll see this here. So the Strait of Hormuz, Iran is controlling that. I'm sorry, it's basically in their country. And so if they shut it down, ain't nothing getting through. Like,
exactly.
You're not going around and ain't nothing getting through. And what we also are dealing with, I saw something the other day. This guy was breaking down why the attacks on the airports are important. Because he talked about, even in Dubai and those airports, they handle 127 million passengers. They are the air gateway from Middle East to European countries as well. Africa. So Iran, being again smart tactically, by attacking the Dubai airport, by attacking these other countries, they are now impacting other nations around the world by this action, because they've been canceling flights left and right. So now all of a sudden, people are stranded there. Now they can't do business in these places. So now other countries are going, yo, U.S., Israel, when this gonna shut in? Because you're now messing up our economy, and now you're impacting global economics. And now you have global instability.
Absolutely. And that's the real point of all of this. That's called strategy. Something that the United States didn't have, that same sort of arrogance, that they went in last June and it lasted about 12 days and they were patting themselves on the back and they said, job done, job accomplished. And then they tried to run it back again, the same play. And now they are getting resistance because you are messing with people's bottom line. You are messing with global economics. So when the strait being closed, yes, we're talking about oil and gas that can't get through, but we're also talking about some luxury items. So why is that important? Because largely a lot of rich folk haven't felt the impact of Trumpism. What they have experienced is making a lot of money, on the stock market. But now it's a different situation. Now you're talking about, countries' GDP being impacted. We're talking about rich people maybe not being able to get their luxury goods that they love because the Strait of Hormuz is closed. So you're not just talking about how bad Trump policy impacts poor and working class people. Now we're getting to the people with money, and now the situation is going to change because it's affecting them.
I want to bring in my panel right now for the questions. Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for environmental justice at the EPA, joining us from D.C. Joe Richardson, civil rights attorney out of Los Angeles. Mateo, the Justice Guy, legal and political analyst out of D.C. as well. Mustafa, your question for Nola.
Hey, Nola, it's good to see you. You also referenced early on about the economic impacts, and I think sometimes folks forget how much it costs for these missiles and jets and the cost of just operating them just for a few hours. Could you just expand a little bit on how those costs are actually going to come back home and how significant they actually are?
The boomerang effect is about to be stupid. Okay, like the foreign policy, the bad foreign policy is going to come back on us domestically in a way that I genuinely worry about. It costs hundreds of millions of dollars a day for this kind of military bombardment. And we have a lot of new tech out there. I don't know this to be true, but I have seen reporting that hypersonic missiles are on the battlefield. And if that is true, that is bananas. Drones are, Ukraine kind of perfected this technology with making low-cost drones that are very effective to the point where they can destroy tanks. Now, drones are a technology that can be relatively inexpensive, but we are using a mix of different type of ammunitions. And all of that is incredibly expensive, to say nothing if we actually do deploy people in country. That's another layer of expense. And so this is going to be compounded. And once again, it's going to be on the backs of Americans to have to pay this bill for Trump and Netanyahu's war.
So that point there, Nola, like people need to understand, the drones costing them $50,000. The bomb is costing us $1.2 million. Mm-hmm. And then I saw this one interaction. We fired 3 weapons to take down 1 drone. So in that instance, it cost us $3.8, almost $4 million to take out a $50,000 drone. And as some estimates from intelligence says, Iran has up to 80,000 drones.
And not to mention the F-15s that supposedly were shot down by friendly fire. I don't know about that. So we have F-15s that are crashing in the Middle East. So that is an enormous cost. And then also, what are we doing to protect our technology inside of those planes when they go down? So the costs are exponential. And because this administration doesn't understand the word strategy, we don't know what the end goal is. We don't know just exactly how long Trump is planning whatever it is him and Netanyahu are up to. Personally, I think part of this is about wanting to crown Netanyahu king of the Middle East, but that ain't gonna happen.
Now, of course, Trump is claiming, this is the New York Times, go to my iPad. Trump says strikes kill Iranians the U.S. saw as new leaders. Well, we'll see if that's actually real or not. Mateo, your question.
First of all, thank you for all the information you've shared. I wanted to talk about Rubio's, preemptive comment today, which is clearly doesn't stand the international legal test. But I also wanted to frame this or help us frame this from a geopolitical perspective. This idea that the strike was preemptive and unplanned kind of made all of the European countries step aside. There was no coordination. There are 2 issues here that I think the European communities, the European governments are handling. On one side, the strike is internationally legal. On the other side, they know that Iran is the greatest sponsor of international terrorism in the world, and so they don't want to be put basically a target on the back of their citizens. So from a geopolitical perspective, how do you think this will play out in the relationship between Trump and the rest of the EU, both in terms of this war and overall?
Well, that's a good question. International law and norms, that's important. Not only did Trump not go to Congress, last I checked, no one showed up at the UN Security Council asking for, permission for this war. So what I think will happen is the world, the international system is really understanding what's at stake now. There's a reason why I brought up why this entire system was built in the first place. It really was built to constrain a Hitler, to constrain a Trump, a leader who is absolutely out of control and unilaterally making decisions to go to war. So now what I am seeing is more of a serious conversation about constraint and what that means in a more fractured environment where the United States isn't leading the way that it once did. So some of what's happening in the background is Europe is actually trying to figure out, okay, who is going to step into this vacuum? Who's going to step into this power vacuum? And what is that going to look like? Right. So it's a lot of rethinking, reshifting, reorganizing, because right now the international system that was built is not working. Trump and Netanyahu are not constrained.
Joe?
Dr. Haynes, it's good to see you. I wonder, let's hypothetically say that this happened as it does, and somehow we get lucky and wake up one morning and Donald Trump is no longer president. And so there's a new leadership team, including Secretary of State or whatever else. And what would you do? Because it's very easy for us to talk about all of the things that they're doing wrong. But what happens because one day somebody's going to have to pick up the pieces here, right? One day, whether it's 3 years from now, it's not clear that this is going to be short, hit it and quit it, stick and move like Sugar Ray Leonard. No, this is probably going to last a while, and it's certainly going to have some effects. So guide us through a bit, if you can, as to what someone that is involved in this situation from a leadership standpoint that really wants to assess and do what's right, what's practical, what's pragmatic on some level, but what's best for our long-term interests. Can you start to guide us a little bit in terms of what that might look like?
Are you asking what happens after Trump? And if this situation is still ongoing?
Yeah, that's the short of it, right? What happens after somebody that really wants to be responsible about landing the plane in this situation has an opportunity to do so?
I think first and foremost, listen, I come to this work, international security and arms control, that's just not a title. That's an actual job. I am an arms control expert. And so I heavily believe in things like JCPOA. I think this is an opportunity for arms control to come back in, to bring people back to the negotiating table. The United States is going to have to pick up our diplomacy chops where we have failed during the Trump years. So I want to start there. I want to start with letting people around the world know that we are very serious about diplomacy first versus a deterrence first posture. And is it going to be costly for us? Are we going to have to eat crow? Absolutely. But the starting point is diplomacy, and then negotiation, and then coming back to the table to reconvene things like JCPOA, New START. So that is where I see opportunity, is coming back to the negotiating table and diplomacy.
For the people who don't know, what is JCPOA?
The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, also known as the Iran nuclear deal.
Gotcha. All right. The other piece is this here, and that is we talk about how long it lasts. The United States. I'm gonna go back to Donald Rumsfeld in Iraq. The United States often sells these wars as, and this is all because of really the aftermath of Vietnam. Quick, decisive, not weeks but days, because they know the longer it goes on, Americans are like, what we doing? What we doing? How much it cost? Then when the human capital increases. But this case, Iran is also paying attention by saying, hey, if we can drive up the economic crisis, you already have an economic problem in America. You all of a sudden, you ain't gonna have Donald Trump yelling gas under $2, which is already a lie. You're gonna say gas $3, $4, $5, goods going up. They understand the American people have no appetite for a high cost of another war.
Absolutely. We don't have an appetite for it, nor do we have an appetite for seeing an all-girls school being blown up in South Iran. We don't have an appetite for seeing more dead children. We don't have an appetite for spending money on wars that we cannot afford. I mean, meat in this country, you pretty much have to be a millionaire to afford a decent piece of meat in this country. And we are talking about a made-up war to possibly make Israel the hegemon? Is that what we're doing? How is that America first? And the way they are twisting themselves into knots to make this America first, talking about people mess with us, then, we're going to show them. Go sit down. Nobody is buying that tired, weak spin. Nobody is buying it. And to your point, Roland, in June, this situation lasted 12 days, right? And Donald Trump keeps going back and forth, back and forth. There's something about him wanting Americans in country, American soldiers in country. He keeps talking about it. And when you have someone in charge who's never served and you think it's cool to put on a jacket and to, give orders like the military or G.I. Joe action figures, he makes statements that is indicative of someone who has never put on a uniform. And not only that, for someone who purposely did not put on a uniform. So he's playing with people's lives. He's playing with people's kitchen tables, with people's bank accounts, because he wants to feel puffed up and important and possibly make his friend more powerful in his region, and possibly wanting to run that play in the Western Hemisphere, which is what all this Greenland and Canada and Mexico conversation is about. It all connects. It all relates.
Couple of more points here.
Afghanistan and Pakistan are at war too, just FYI.
A couple of more points here before we go. Folks, Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, do understand, and CNN put this compilation together of how long he has been saying Iran is around the corner from having a nuclear weapon. He's literally been saying this for 30 years. Listen, y'all. Listen.
Deadline for attaining this goal is getting extremely close. And Iran, by the way, is also outpacing Iraq in the development of ballistic missile systems that they hope will reach the eastern seaboard of the United States within 15 years. By next spring, at most, by next summer, at current enrichment rates, they will have finished the medium enrichment and move on to the final stage. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks, before they get enough enriched uranium for the first bomb. The foremost sponsor of global terrorism could be weeks away from having enough enriched uranium for an entire arsenal of nuclear weapons. That would place a militant Islamic terror regime weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
Now, it's obvious that Israel does not want Iran to have a nuclear bomb.
Mm-hmm.
But Israel has a nuclear bomb. And what's crazy is Israel has never well, not just in the report. Israel has never disclosed it. The United States acts like, oh, we don't know if they have one. We know they do. And one of the reasons countries want a nuclear bomb, it's also a deterrent to other countries not invading you. For instance, India, Pakistan, because they have nuclear weapons, we treat them differently. Many people have said Gaddafi's biggest mistake was agreeing to the United States and giving up his nuclear program. They said many experts say the moment Gaddafi did that, in addition to trying to unite African countries and have a one currency for the continent, and it wasn't going to be what France wanted or the United States, is that the moment he gave up his nuclear program, that's when the U.S. said, oh, we could take his ass out. Because the fear always was, if we strike Gaddafi, he could retaliate with his nuclear program. And so that's also what's at play here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The same could be said about Ukraine. They gave up their capabilities too. And hindsight is always 20/20, and they're wondering, was that the right decision? But, and France, there's reporting that France is actually stepping up their nuclear program. So again, the way that this is impacting the global system, not just economically, but we're talking about global security is going to be forever altered by what happened this time with Iran, because Donald Trump and Netanyahu, they are acting unilaterally as if they are crown kings of the world. And the international system is seeing this. They're seeing this with a host of other things, and they are thinking about their security in a way that they haven't thought about for a very long time. And we could be entering some new phase of an arms race. I mean, we definitely are talking about that already in the space sector, but terrestrially, we are now entering another phase of this, and we are moving in the wrong direction, Roland. This is not the direction in terms of proliferation that we want to be moving in.
All right, Dr. Noel Haynes, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Folks, going to a break. We come back. We're going to talk about elections taking place today in Texas, North Carolina, as well as Arkansas. Lots more to discuss right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bree Baker, and my good sis, Jameer Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
What's up? It's Talib Kweli. I'm CEO. This is the Black Star Network.
A federal jury awarded 5.7. Excuse me. All right, folks. We are going to get a guest back. First of all, federal jury awarded $5.7 million in damages to a black woman and her family in Chicago after police violated their civil rights during a botched raid on their home nearly 8 years ago. August 2018, police executed a raid at Ebony Tate's residence, breaking down the door and drawing guns on Tate, her mother, and her 4 children. Folks, it was later determined that they had targeted the wrong house and had not properly verified the information provided by an informant. That is absolutely crazy. We're going to be talking soon with the attorney representing the family. The Tate family is Zach Hofield. So we had an issue with his signal, so we're going to have that very soon. Let's go to, is our second guest ready? Okay, all right, let's go. Let's talk about that story. We'll come back to that. In California, a federal jury awarded $3 million to the daughter of Jermaine Pettit, an unarmed Air Force veteran who was shot and severely injured by LAPD officers in 2022. The jury concluded that the officers were not justified in their use of deadly force against Pettit and that the shots fired against him were not necessary to defend human life. Evidence proved he was unarmed at the time of the shooting, but was carrying a black metal auto part shaped like a gun. Rodney Digg joins us right now, the Pettit family attorney. Rodney, glad to have you here. Rodney, the thing here with these cases, again, they are very consistent, and that is abuse of power, shameful actions by police, and they can all be avoided. But when you have trigger-happy cops, this is what we get.
That's correct. So not only when you have, trigger-happy cops, but when you have, cops who overreact and who really don't follow, their training or the policy. And that's what we're seeing amongst all these cases with this unlawful shooting or the excessive force. Officers just aren't following their training. The law says, and especially out here in California, you can't shoot someone just because they have a gun in their hand. In this case, there was no gun at all or anything. You can only use deadly force if the threat is imminent to cause death or serious bodily injury to yourself or to someone else. And that's it. Being subject to fear alone is not enough. An officer can't say, oh, I feared for my life or I thought he was going to shoot me. It has to be something more. And again, it has to be imminent. And so that's the issue that we're seeing. And that's the issue that we saw in this case.
Okay, so what do the police there say? How do you rectify this? Or is it one of those things where they say, we got insurance, it'll pay for it, let's move along?
Yeah, I mean, the law allows the entity, in this case, the city of Los Angeles, the LAPD, to indemnify these officers. And so, these officers aren't really receiving, any sort of discipline. One, they don't receive discipline in general when there is, a shooting. There may be some admin leave or something to that extent, but ultimately what happens is, these public entities find that the officer shooting is within policy. And, that's what they always say. The same thing in policy, I thought it was a gun or something to that extent. I thought my life was in danger. I thought my partner's life was in danger. So I had no other choice but to use deadly force. And, it's interesting is you have all these other force options that are available to these officers, such as, taser or beanbag shotguns, billy club or OC spray, which is pepper spray. And, all the time there's reasons to why the officers say that they can't use these other less non-deadly force, that they have to use, their gun. So it's very interesting.
And again, just unfortunately, for so many of these families, folks are going to be left with, if the person isn't killed, they're going to be left with, injuries for a very, very, very long time. And that's something that we have to deal with. State of Mr. Pettit.
So unfortunately, Mr. Petty, he passed away. So he passed away about a year and a half after the shooting. So his daughter was the plaintiff in this case, and we were able to do that. And so this was kind of like the last gift that her father was able to give to her. But yeah, unfortunately, Mr. Petty wasn't alive to see that a jury unanimously, awarded him $3 million, and that he got the justice that he deserved. The thing about Mr. Petty is that he served in the military. He was in the U.S. Air Force, honorably discharged, and did everything right. It just so happens he was just walking down the street. Officers stopped him because they said he possibly could fit a description, and immediately approached him with their guns drawn. And once more, what's interesting in this case is there were two officers that initially approached Mr. Petty, and they said, "Show me your hands," which he did. He showed his hands. In one hand, he had a water bottle. In the other hand was his car part that doesn't look like or shaped like a gun. One of the officers told his partner, "It's not a gun, bro." And you see that on their body-worn camera. He walks to his partner and tells his partner, "It's not a gun, bro." Despite that, as Mr. Petty starts to walk away, the officer that was told that to, shot Mr. Petty in the back. And then you had a supervising sergeant that day driving in his car. I essentially call it a drive-by because he's in his car by himself, driving with his gun out of the window, pointing at Mr. Petty for 90 feet in 9 seconds. And at the last minute, he shoots him in the face. He shoots twice, once hits him in the face. Again, when he gets out the vehicle, he's like, "Where's his gun? Where's the gun? I don't see anything." And the object that everyone claims that they thought was a gun is laying right there in front of Mr. Petty on the ground. And they can't identify it as a gun because it never was a gun, but still decided to use deadly force against Mr. Petty on that day.
All right. Glad to see a jury actually agree. Attorney Rodney Diggs, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, folks. Have we solved the technical issue with the other attorney? All right. So let's go to a break. When we come back, hopefully we'll have him and some other stories. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support us, folks, by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars are critically important for the work that we do. If you want to join us via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. That's for credit cards as well. Checks and money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo, RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, a relationship that we have to have. We're often afraid of it and don't like to talk about it. That's right, we're talking about our relationship with money. And here's the thing, our relationship with money oftentimes determines whether we have it or not. Balancing your relationship with your pocketbook. That's next on A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Swing Cash, Basketball Hall of Famer, and you're watching Black Star Network.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Ryan Wilson, CEO and co-founder of The Gathering Spot, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Primary day in Texas, Arkansas, and North Carolina as huge races up and down the ballot are there for Democrats and Republicans. Texas, we're watching, of course, that U.S. Senate race between State Representative James Talarico as well as Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Already problems there in Texas. Go to my iPad. Texas Democrats say that upwards of a third of people in Williamson County have been turned away as a result of polling confusion. This is the press release right here. They say today should be a celebration of democracy. Instead, hundreds of Dallas and Williamson County voters are being turned away from the polls, and we know exactly why. The Dallas and Williamson County Republican parties refused to agree to a joint primary election. That decision forced voters out of the countywide voting system they've used for over a decade and sent them scrambling to find their assigned precinct. The result, confusion, long lines, and working people being told they're at the wrong location with no clear path to cast their ballot. The campaign of Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, they are working with the Democrats to actually go to court. They want to see polls extended to 9 p.m. The Talarico campaign, they also announced that they want to see polls stay open as well. As a result, this is the official statement from the Talarico campaign. Give me 1 second. We are deeply concerned by reports of voters being turned away from the polls in Dallas and Williamson counties following the GOP's implementation of precinct-specific voting locations for Election Day. We will continue to evaluate the situation on the ground and are calling for an extension of voting hours to ensure all Texans' voices are heard in this critical election. And the Crockett campaign was first out calling for this, and many of their supporters were calling out the Talarico campaign on social media saying it's time for y'all to speak up, and then they finally did. And so that's what we see right here. And so, again, what we are seeing right now is this taking place. Now, look, this is huge. Guys, don't go. Thank you. Please go when I tell you. It wasn't ready. So the Crockett campaign, this was the campaign. This was the statement of the Crockett campaign. I'm asking all voters in Dallas and Williamson County to check their county's election website or their voter registration card and identify the correct polling location for today. Do not give up and do not give in. The only way we can put an end to these maneuvers is by outvoting the Republicans and kicking them out of office. I'm calling on you to go out and cast your ballot so they know Texans don't appreciate having their votes suppressed, and we won't take it lying down. I'm a registered voter in Dallas County. When I voted on February 20th, I could vote at so during early voting, I could vote anywhere in the county on election day. So I landed at Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. I could have gone to an election place right next to the airport, vote and get back on the plane, but I had some other business in Texas. But what they did was, so it was countywide doing early voting, but it was precinct specific on election day, as the statement read from the Texas Democrats. For a decade, it's been countywide on election day. And so this is what you see. This is one of the reasons why people talk about why you should vote early, so you can avoid drama on election day. They also had complaints that in some places they had 12 places for Republicans to vote, only 5 for Democrats, and people had to go to work and could not wait. Some lines were 1, 2, and 3 hours, so they said, hey, I can't wait, and they walked away. That's what we see. This right here, Joe, is the kind of stuff. Look, Republicans have been doing these things because we know they want to contract the vote. They want fewer people voting as opposed to it being expansive. And so this little silliness of, oh, we're going to go to paper ballots. And again, this is in Dallas and Williamson County. Y'all, it's 254 counties in Texas. Okay? 254. Okay? How about you have a statewide situation? But this is what they do. This is the games that they play in Texas.
I guess they say, but what they really need to do is to make sure we get this all figured out. I'm glad that the Crockett campaign is speaking up, glad that the Talarico campaign has come through eventually, at least saying something about this. But these are some bugs that's going to have to be worked out now, because what's happening is the Democrats are turning out in record numbers. And the Republicans are looking through the window, seeing that, saying to themselves that maybe they have awakened a sleeping giant between what's going on politically and the energy that this campaign has created. And therefore, once we get to a general election, it could be a very serious problem for them. They don't, they don't look so invincible necessarily. And so we got to get the bugs worked out. We got to do everything that needs to be done so that everyone that can vote does. I'm a big advocate everywhere. I used to love the energy of going and voting on election day, but it's great voting early on, because even here in California, San Bernardino County, you can go more places when you're in early voting. You can go to the general voting place. You can go to the county registrar of voters. So you've got all kinds of flexibility. We also have very good mail-in, et cetera. It's important to vote early if you possibly can, because it gives you the best opportunity to make sure that mistakes don't get made. And so normally when you vote early, it doesn't take 3 hours either. And so we really have to be very, very intentional. It's great that there's record turnout, and to do everything that we can to vote early and often so that less of this can actually go on later on. And so hopefully people are taking that message.
Go to my iPad. A judge in Dallas County has extended, this just in, a judge in Dallas County has extended voting hours to 9 p.m. For Democrats there as well. Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins confirmed Tuesday evening that the Democratic polling locations in the county will be extended to 9 p.m. Votes cast by Democrats from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. will be counted as provisional ballots. The hours were not extended for Republicans as they did not seek the same change. I'm not sure why they're going to be counted as provisional ballots, but they have been extended. Mateo.
I think that, it's pretty clear to me what is happening. It's not a far-fetched to call it voter suppression, but even if it weren't, even if it were just a byproduct of misorganization. I think the biggest threat here is voter apathy, right? We've seen voter apathy by just the numbers. The vast majority of Americans don't vote, let alone in midterms, let alone in primaries. I think that the greatest threat here is the fact that people are just simply looking at a long line and they just give up. They're not going to sit in line. They're not going to try again. They're not going to seek any type of relief like we've seen in county. I think that the message we need to send out is don't give up. It's the importance of even a primary election to participate, to be there, to vote, and to vote often, and to not give up on this, which is the foundational right to ensure democracy.
Well,
and
but here's the thing here, Mustafa. I get it. People got to go to work, and this is part of the problem. If I go to the polls, and let's say I gotta be at work by 8:30. Polls open, let's say it's 7 a.m. Okay, if I get there at 7 a.m. and in long lines, stuff along like this, all of a sudden now, damn, I got traffic, and so I've accounted for 30 and 45 minutes to vote. I'm not expecting it's gonna take 2 hours for me to vote. This is one of those issues, and what we have seen, and I've witnessed this in Texas, where Republicans, how they'll game a system. They'll sit here and say, oh, we'll have limited number of voting booths, knowing full well you can look at the data and know what's a Republican precinct and a Democratic precinct. You know when it comes to voting, and they often say, well, you know, there's cost, well, we can't do these things. Listen, Tarrant County, next to Dallas County, that's where the Republicans whacked 100 early voting locations claiming, oh, we just can't afford it. No, they want to shrink. So the problem is when people have to work. And so it's like, hey, I can vote before work. I can vote when I get off. But now time is being compressed. And yes, folk, they get frustrated. We're not actually we're seeing massive turnout in Texas. Early voting, it was like 240% higher than it normally is. Republican was about 120% higher. So we're seeing turnout. I'm reading this tweet here. Don't go to it. So she said, backlash to President Trump in South Texas. Early voting in the 5 border counties from Webb County, Laredo, down to Cameron County, Brownsville. Democrats outvoted Republicans 103,000 to 25,000. So you're seeing that. But again, this is what the John Lewis Voter Act and others were about. Republicans do not want more people to vote. They want to make it harder, not easier.
Yeah, I mean, people are hungry to vote, right? People are hungry for change. But, you have this suppression strategy that's in place in this moment. Of course, we know suppression strategy has been around. Our good sister Fannie Lou Hamer used to talk to us about it, and many others. And as we come forward into this moment, we see many of those old tactics just be upgraded for the 21st century. They understand that if they can shrink the vote, then they have a much better chance because their policies are not reflective of what most folks in Texas, most folks in North Carolina, or a number of other locations across our country are interested in. So they know that they have to rig the game. And they rig the game by making sure that folks sometimes don't know where to go to vote, or if they show up, certain types of ID that's necessary. There is a gamut of things that have been put in place intentionally to stop people or to shrink the number of people from voting. If you truly cared about democracy, we would be making it as easy as possible for folks to vote, legally to vote. We would also make sure that we are properly funding and helping people to understand where to be able to go to vote. But that's not of interest to folks who are trying to hold on to power, who are trying to make sure that their view of America continues. But the voters, we the people, are saying that, yes, we are going to show up. So our elected officials and others have a responsibility to make sure that when we show up, that we have the ability to cast our ballot.
And here's the problem that people have to understand. If you don't know what your specific precinct is, and let's say you're going to vote after you get off of work, then if you're not in line, you can't vote. This is Judge Clay Jenkins in Dallas County. This is what he said. Even if they're willing to go through all that hassle, they may not be in line at their correct polling place until 7 o'clock. And if you're past 7 o'clock to get in the line, you can't vote. Now, if you're in line by 7 p.m., you can vote. But if you're not in line, you can't vote. And this is when it comes to the hassles. All right, folks, again, we're going to be monitoring this. Oh, and by the way, Dallas County and Williamson County are the home counties of both Democratic candidates, James Talarico and Jasmine Crockett, for the U.S. Senate race. All right, folks, short break. We come back. We'll talk with the attorney for a family in Illinois that got a huge settlement in a case there. Back on Roland Martin Unfiltered in a moment.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, a relationship that we have to have. We're often afraid of it and don't like to talk about it. That's right, we're talking about our relationship with money. And here's the thing, our relationship with money oftentimes determines whether we have it or not. Balancing your relationship with your pocketbook. That's next on A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
My name is Bill Duke, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
We tell you about the Ebony Tate and her family. They were wrongfully targeted by Chicago police. They were awarded $5.7 million in damages. Joining us right now is the attorney for the family, Zach Hofield. Zach, glad to have you here.
Roland, good to be with you.
This is insane. So an informant gave them the wrong address?
Yeah. The informant, the Chicago Police Department had bad information. There were actually two search warrants they obtained, one for 5033 and one for 5039. Buildings were right next to each other, and the informant told them that the individual they were looking for lived in both residences, which, you know, obviously raised some questions as to whether that's actually the case.
And so walk us through, I mean, remember this case. I mean, my goodness, these folks are at the house, and next thing you know, it's like a war zone.
Exactly. And, you know, it's undisputed that this family of six, a mom, a grandma, and four children, ages 13, 11, 8, and 4, weren't doing anything wrong. No evidence of any crime or wrongdoing found at their home. They were just everyday citizens minding their own business. And there is a Chicago police SWAT team that executed these simultaneous search warrants in these two buildings. And you know, rather than knock and announce and wait, you know, it's required give the family an opportunity to come to the door voluntarily and answer. They didn't knock and announce. They did what's called a dynamic entry, which is fast moving, hard charging, and in many ways is very bad practice, dangerous practice. Detonated noise flash diversionary devices or flashbang grenades outside the home, you know, which has a very startling effect, and just came in guns blazing in terms of guns pointed directly at Ebony, the mom, and Kaya, the 4-year-old, in the living room. Miss Eason, the grandmother, comes out of her bedroom, guns pointed directly at her. And, you know, officers are trained, you don't get to point and then decide whether something's a threat. You keep it rifle pointed at the ground. Only once you've decided that someone is a threat, you point. And this, you know, policy and training went out the window inside the Tate home. And guns were pointed also at Imani, who's 13, and Lanaya, who's 11, Legend, who's 8. And not just for a flash of a second, but in a sustained fashion for, you know, there were different estimates of time, but grandmother thought it was on the order of 2 to 3 minutes. Some of the kids thought it was on the order of, you know, 30 to 45 seconds, but the jury believed it was objectively unreasonable conduct.
Absolutely crazy. So I'm glad to see this jury had some sense because that's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine. And I think the other part of the story, Roland, is that I don't think the jury, they didn't need to find that these officers were monsters in any way. In many ways, it's a story about a failure to train and a failure of the city of Chicago to have a policy to avoid needless gun pointing at young kids who clearly pose no threat under the circumstances. Failure to properly train officers to avoid pointing guns at children who clearly pose no threat under the circumstances. And in fact, we brought what's called a Monell claim in this case against the city, alleging that they had a policy and practice of allowing their officers to use excessive force against children over this 6-year period that led up to the incident, and thus was, what was causing the officers to use this unreasonable force against the children. And the jury found against the city on that claim, essentially finding that the city did have this practice that it allowed in its police department of using excessive force against kids without holding officers accountable.
Absolutely. Zach Ofield, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Good to be with you, Roland. Take care.
All right, folks, time for Black Star Network headlines with Brittany Noble.
The Baltimore Police Department released body-worn camera footage for the February 24th fatal police-involved shooting of a 37-year-old black man. Officers Arthur Fook, Omar Rodriguez, and Devon Yancey entered the liquor store and see Dwight Hawkins with a group of people. The group, including Hawkins, leaves and the officers follow him outside, believing he was armed. At some point, Hawkins begins to run. Fook, Rodriguez, and Yancey chase him while giving him commands to stop and show his hands. Now, police say Hawkins pulled out a handgun while moving towards Fook. Fook and Rodriguez fired their weapons, hitting Hawkins 17 times. During Saturday's press conference, BPD Commissioner Richard Warley said that his officers were in the area working crime suppression.
They're doing exactly what we want them to do. They're going in there, they're trying to get all guns off the street. Clearly, they were drawn to this individual who they were extremely correct. He had a handgun. People were grieving. I feel for the family. They're grieving the loved one that they lost. But when they've seen the body-worn camera video, and they've seen that he had a handgun in his hand, he refused to drop it numerous times. He's a convicted felon that should not even have had a handgun. And as he comes up to the second officer, he reaches his hand up towards the officer's gun.
This is not the first police-involved shooting involving officers Rodriguez and Yancey. They were involved in a July 2025 incident that resulted in the death of a well-known street vendor, Balil Abdullah Jr. Well, a black Pennsylvania mother says she was racially profiled when a local white police officer pulled her over after she handed her son a coffee cup. The incident happened January 15th after Bianca Tatum dropped her son off at home. The Fairview Township police officer pulled Tatum over, accused her of engaging in an illegal transaction after she handed her son the cup. The officer also asked her, "Do you have any crack?" Tatum recorded the encounter.
Gentleman that walked back in the house.
His coffee cup.
His coffee cup?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm tired of him leaving his mess in my car.
Okay, all right. Do you have anything illegal in the car?
You want to search it?
I mean, if you want to let me search it.
Like, what do y'all think we did a transaction or something?
Well, that's what it looked like.
Because we're black?
No. I couldn't see in your car. Your window tints too dark.
Okay,
anyway.
so exactly. So, but it looked like we were doing a drug transaction.
Yeah, so you pulled up, he came out, you handed something to him, he walked back in the house.
No, you missed it.
We're not going to argue about it.
I came from this way, went around, took him home,
I saw where
dropped
you came
him
from.
off.
I saw where you came from.
And I dropped him off to his house.
Okay.
He left his cup here because I'm tired of his shit being in my car. I beeped the horn, gave him his cup.
Okay.
That's what happened.
Okay. Do you have anything illegal in the car?
No.
Okay.
Tatum says she will seek legal action. Well, Well, Aisha Pinky Cole, founder of the popular Slutty Vegan franchise, is facing financial hardships again. This time, she's filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, citing nearly $1.4 million in debt. The filing comes just after Cole's announcement that she will make her reality television debut on the upcoming season of The Real Housewives of Atlanta. Slutty Vegan began as a food truck in 2018. It quickly expanded to 14 locations at its peak, though several restaurants have since closed. According to court documents, Cole owes about $1.2 million to the U.S. Small Business Administration and about $192,000 to the Georgia Department of Revenue. The next step in the case is a bankruptcy teleconference scheduled March 12th, with a reorganization plan due by June 12th. Fourth grader Honey Cooper may just be 9 years old, but she's already making college-level moves. The Kim Park Elementary student in San Bernardino, California, spends her days like most fourth graders do, studying fractions, science, and reading. But outside her elementary classroom, Honey is sitting in a college art course alongside much older students. Her mother, Honey, says the youngest of 5 taught herself to read as a toddler, and she has always shown an extraordinary curiosity and love of learning. That talent caught the attention of Assistant Superintendent of Student Services, Sandra Rodriguez, who encouraged public school students to enroll in classes at San Bernardino Community College. Well, the Homeschool Yo Kid Expo is coming to the Midwest, South, East, and West Coast. The traveling educational event is expanding to 13 more cities. It serves as a comprehensive resource hub for both new and experienced homeschoolers. The nonprofit organization kicked off the event in Oakland, California, January 31st. Now it will hit places like Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, just to name a few. Each stop on the tour features interactive activities, inspiring speakers, curriculum, and enrichment vendors. The event is designed for parents and children. Organizers are aiming to provide homeschooling resources and education to families across the country. For more information, visit homeschoolyokidsexpo.com.
All right, I want to go back to that video of that mother being pulled over by the cop. And Joe, I want to start with you. So she says, "Do you want to search the car?" I immediately looked up. Word to the wise, never, ever consent to your car being searched, Joe. I'm not a lawyer, but correct?
Well, yeah, that's the short answer. You got to see the window that she's coming through in that, hey, I got nothing to hide. But the only problem with that is most of the time the police are the ones saying, well, if you don't have anything to hide, I should be able to search it. No, you should not be able to search it. And so now, if you feel like it's a matter of life or death and something's happening or whatever else, you might have to make some kind of decision related to that. But yeah, generally speaking, no, you don't. You certainly don't offer, and when they don't have a right to search, when there's none of the incidences that give them occasion to search, part of, incident to a lawful arrest, probable cause / reasonable suspicion, 3 or 4 instances under which they have a right to search. So my thing is, if you got a right to search, that's one thing. We can have that argument later on, but it's not going to be because I told you that you could search or that I offered that you could search. If they don't have a right to search and they're asking to search, that suggests to me that they don't have a right to search. And so therefore, not only are you not necessarily telling them that they can search, but you're also not offering them the right to search, okay? So yeah, I see the window that she's coming through. It seems like, of course, she was bothered, etc. But from a safety standpoint, she came out well, and she's gonna, bring legal action, etc. But generally speaking, no. If they don't have the ability to search without my consent, they're not gonna get it with my consent.
Mateo, also, we don't have to disclose a lot of information. I mean, there was also a lot of oversharing. That's one of those things where you say, do you need my information? Like, I'm not about to explain to you what actually happened. Because again, listen, they may use this against you. The other thing about searching vehicle, listen, we did the story, I think it was in Florida, where this cop actually tossed a bottle of alcohol into the vehicle, and arrested the guy, no, hell no. Y'all can't open shit. Y'all ain't opening the door, the trunk. You ain't looking at nothing. You gonna have to establish probable cause if you think you gonna look in my car.
Yeah, I mean, from a human perspective, I can understand how a person that's not accustomed to encounters with law enforcement feels under pressure and may volunteer that. That is the number, not even the number one rule, it's the number 0 rule. You do not offer because they need, a reason to search, right? It also could potentially hinder her lawsuit. So it could hinder her options or her odds of getting relief in civil court. Again, I understand how, from a human perspective, she felt under pressure, and she said that it's a huge mistake, and it's a huge mistake because it gives a reason for the officer to continue, especially if the officer, and again, from a human perspective, if the officer felt that the person was being disrespectful. We all know how these things go. Officers way too often feel like they need to have the upper hand. They cannot be humiliated by a citizen. And so it can lead to worse things. So keep your mouth shut, know what your rights are, and certainly keep your door shut unless there is a reason for an officer, a legal reason for an officer to search.
And again, so the whole point there, Mustafa, if you're given a lawful command, I know what it is in Texas. If you're giving a lawful command, you have to obey. That's how the cop, that's how he trapped Sandra Bland. When he gave the lawful command for her to exit the vehicle and she refused to do so, that's what led to the arrest. And we know, of course, she died there in jail. But hey, if the cops say, can I search your vehicle? Hell no, you can't search my damn vehicle.
Yeah, 4 words, hell to the no.
Hell to the no.
That's right.
It's really simple, Right, you don't have to go to law school to understand this stuff. Yes, you have to follow the law if there's a command, but you don't want to give anybody anything, especially if you know that you haven't done anything. And if you have done something, you definitely don't want to. And I'm not encouraging the latter behavior. But we also have to understand that when a police officer pulls you over and you are a person of color, there are also another set of dynamics, because we remember DeQuan Johnson up there in Michigan, and we remember a number of other people who didn't do anything wrong but lost their lives. So we have to be mindful of those dynamics, but we also have to be mindful that we have rights, just like every other person inside this country, and that we should utilize those to make sure that we're not incriminating ourselves or putting ourselves in a situation. Because yes, most police officers are probably decent individuals, but of course there are some who should not be police officers and have been known to do some things that are nefarious, at least. So hell to the no.
Absolutely. All right, y'all, going to a quick break. We come back. Ice Barbie got grilled in Congress, even by Republicans. We'll show you right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
What's happening? This is your man, Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching the Black Star Network.
Ice Barbie, Kristi Noem, Secretary of Homeland Security, testified before Congress, and man, she got her ass lit up by Republicans and Democrats over a variety of issues, including the killing of 2 Americans by ICE agents, and of course, that plane, that some call the love nest, that with a bedroom that they picked up. So we're gonna show you some of the grilling, which was actually pretty interesting. First up, I'm gonna play Senator Richard Blumenthal. He, of course, of Connecticut, had a woman stand up who survived being shot 5 times by Border Patrol agents. Folks, this was riveting. Watch this.
Miramar Martinez is with us today as well. She's standing right behind you. She was on her way to donate clothing at her church when she came across an unmarked car. The agents sideswiped her car. 3 masked agents in camouflage stormed out, and one of them pulled out his gun and fired at her moving vehicle, hitting her 5 times. She almost bled to death. Wouldn't you agree that shooting Miramar Martinez on her way to donate clothing at her church, a United States citizen from Chicago, is wrong?
Sir, I don't know the situation or the case. I'll look into it to ensure that all the procedures were followed properly.
Miramar, by the way, was falsely charged with impeding law enforcement, but the case actually fell apart. The judge dismissed it as being trumped up. He dismissed it with prejudice. And in fact, the agent who shot her, I'm not going to name him, but you know who he is, was quoted on social media the day or so afterward. And he said, quote, "I fired 5 rounds and she had 7 holes." Put that in your book, boys.
Republican Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana challenged Noem. Remember she said that the 2 folks who were shot and killed in Minneapolis, they were domestic terrorists? And then she said that, on the record, she said that, well, I was just listening to Stephen Miller. She then lies to Congress. Listen to this.
The 2 killings in Minneapolis, and I think there's a lot of video on them, Madam Secretary. I think people can see the video and draw their own conclusions. Are you and your department conducting an investigation of those?
Sir, the investigation is being led by the FBI. HSI was involved. In fact, our HSI agents on the ground.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I got so little time. I believe at the time you said these were acts of domestic terrorism. Is that right?
Sir, in answer to questions at the press conference that afternoon, it was that it appeared to be.
Yeah, but you said these appeared to be acts of domestic terrorism.
And as I've said previously in this hearing, is that
first, Madam Secretary, did you say
we're getting information from a chaotic scene on the ground and relaying information to the American people.
Okay. Now, again, those videos are public. People can draw their own conclusions. I think it'd be safe to say you got some pushback on that. Mm-hmm. Would that be fair?
Yes, sir.
And you had some criticism. I'm not saying the criticism was accurate or inaccurate. I think you did. What got my attention was that you blamed those statements on Mr. Stephen Miller at the White House. Did you not?
No, sir, I did not. And in fact, where you're seeing that is in a news article of anonymous sources. And anonymous sources say a lot of things, but I've never said that at all.
Well, here's what you said on the record. I'm going to read your words. Quote, "Everything I've done at the direction of the president and Stephen."
Sir, where did you see me say that at? You read that in
It
a
was
news
reported
article with no sources
you said it on
affiliated
the
to it.
record on January 27th of 2026. Did I read your words accurate?
I enjoy working with the president and with Stephen Miller, and that day we were working to get as much information to the American people as possible. That is what we'll continue to do, and as that happens, we'll go forward.
Do you think it was fair to blame Mr. Miller?
Sir, I did not do that. You're reading from a newspaper article with
Yes, ma'am.
anonymous sources.
Are you denying that you said that?
Sir, I'm not going to speak to that situation that is relayed on anonymous sources that no
This
one
wasn't
has heard me
anonymous.
say that.
It was you.
No. Who
I mean, you
reported
said
that
it.
to that newspaper?
They're quoting you on the record, saying it's Stephen's fault. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Klobuchar. And throwing an uppercut, but that was blocked.
Oh my God, she was straight up lying. She was straight up lying, y'all. She just straight up lying. Senator Cory Booker lit that ass up as well. Watch.
It is an idea that the government has a very high standard should they take away liberty and freedom from an American citizen. How many U.S. citizens has DHS detained as of last October?
Senator, if you're talking about detained and arrested, is that those that have been violating and obstructing our law enforcement operations? Is that what you're referencing? Because it could be hundreds and hundreds. We have faced violent riots across the country,
You are
specifically in Portland and in
the
Minneapolis.
only people you've detained are committing crimes, but you and I both know
No, I
that's
haven't
not true.
said that. I didn't
so
say
then
that. I
how
asked
many
which ones you
people
were referencing.
have you detained?
I can't give you an accurate number because we've literally detained and arrested many for those obstruction of law enforcement operations, and
So
also
public
others
records,
that had probable
let me tell you what
cause
my staff researched.
and then released
May
once
I
yes.
continue? Public records are showing that over 170 incidents of your agency unlawfully taking away the liberties and freedoms of American citizens. This includes 20 children, 20 American kids that your agency detained. How long can your agency detain an American citizen?
We don't detain children and separate them from their parents. Those parents have chosen
You're telling me
to keep
under
their
oath
child
right now.
with
Hold on.
them.
I just want to be clear. You're telling me under oath right now that your agency has not detained American children.
Those parents have chosen to keep their children with them. We don't separate families like the Biden
hold on.
administration
Let me
did.
continue.
We keep them
Let me-
together, and parents
please
have the
let me
option
continue.
on if they want their child with them or not with them.
How long do detentions last when you detain an American citizen? How long do they last?
We don't detain American citizens, and if there's probable cause.
Let me give you, because you are not speaking truthfully under oath. Isaias Pena Salcedo, a U.S. citizen living in California, was detained more than 70 hours, almost 3 days, even after he showed ICE agents his passport. My colleague, Senator Blumenthal, gave you example after example. He brought people here who had something else we Americans consider sacrosanct, our home, our property. Your masked agents jumping out of unmarked cars have broken into considerable property damage occurring into American citizens' homes. Case after case of this, and you sit here before me and claim the buck stops with you, but you don't even know the names of these individuals. I ran New Jersey's largest municipal police department. When my officers engaged in misconduct, you can be damn well sure I knew about it and I investigated it. And yet you have situations where your officers are violating the sanctity of people's homes, arresting and detaining them and holding their children. And you're acting as if you don't know about it and saying that under oath. Miramar Martinez, who is here right now, on her way to church, an American citizen going to church, not just to worship, but to donate clothing, Your officers shot her multiple times. The case was thrown out of court, and you represent here that you don't know about it. In New Jersey, are you aware of your officers' activities in places like schools? Are you aware of your officers' activities at our public schools?
Sir, we don't go into schools and do targeted law enforcement operations. We do targeted law enforcement operations like other agencies
So you're
and law
telling me that
enforcement
ICE officers entered the grounds of a high school in Minneapolis? That's a fact. Elementary school children in New Jersey are terrified of your agents. When they came upon a school bus stop, they fled. Another school, a higher education, Columbia University, your agents reportedly lied to students, told them they were searching for a missing person to gain access to private spaces, to non-public areas of campus. Secretary Noem, these are kids. They're terrified in our communities. How do you think that affects them when children in my state go running, fleeing, and often you all pursue children, throwing them to the ground, getting on their backs, putting them in handcuffs? I want to talk to you about this incredible empire of for-profit companies that are profiting at rates we've never seen, and the way you're using money. Let's drill down on the warehouses that DHS has been buying over the last several months, totaling hundreds of millions of dollars. Are you familiar with the acquisition of a warehouse DHS recently bought in Roxbury Township, New Jersey?
Yes.
You are familiar with that?
Mm-hmm. I'm
Do you
familiar
know
that
how
it's...
much you spent for it?
No, sir, I do not.
$129.3 million. Do you know how much it was assessed for in New Jersey?
Sir, we're purchasing centers across the country to build efficiency into our detention system.
Efficiency to
so that
me,
we
as
can...
a person who's run tight budgets before and had taxpayer dollars, you paid $129.3 million for a facility in my state that was assessed at less than half of that, at $62 million. To work for a president that says he's a great deal maker, I can't believe he thinks that you're a great deal maker. But what's worse than that is that the Roxbury Township Council, comprised entirely of Republicans, voted unanimously early this year to oppose that facility. My office tried to facilitate a meeting between DHS and local officials so that ICE could hear their concerns, yet DHS did not even respond. That is unacceptable, that you all would enter a town, you wouldn't even follow environmental reviews or have conversations with local officials about the resources, from emergency resources to fire resources and more, that you're going to pull down. You didn't even have a conversation. Secretary Noem, do you comply with court orders?
Yes, we do comply with court orders.
Your agency complies with court orders.
Yes, we comply with federal court orders.
You were saying under oath that you do, and yet we know in January the chief judge, Republican appointed for the Federal District of Minnesota, found that ICE had violated nearly 100 court orders since January 1st alone. In my state of New Jersey, last month, the chief of staff to Deputy Attorney General admitted in my state that in the New Jersey District Court that the government had violated 52 separate court orders, all involving cases where immigrants successfully challenged the legality of their detention. So this again is a constitution that you swore an oath to, and one of the most important ideals is that no one is above the law. You are violating the separation of powers, violating court orders, and routinely violating the civil rights of Americans. This is a reckless and out-of-control agency that you are responsible for. You seem to have no situational awareness whatsoever of some of the most egregious examples of Americans being completely attacked, violated, undermined in accordance with our laws by their own government. And this is what is phenomenal to me, is immigration was your president's #1 issue, overwhelmingly popular with the American people. But now it's overwhelmingly unpopular. And it's not because you are deporting dangerous people that everybody here wants out of our country. No, it's because you're going into our schools. You're terrorizing our children. You're detaining children. You're arresting Americans. You're breaking into our homes. You're terrorizing our streets. You're violating our rights to peacefully protest again and again and again.
None of
and then
that
when a
is true.
court tells you
None
to
of
stop,
that is true.
and then when a court
You are
tells you
trying
to stop,
to impede
you
us
violate
from enforcing
judges'
the law
orders. Not in
and
a
getting
partisan
dangerous
way,
criminals off of our streets
Republican-appointed and
so we don't have more
Democratic-appointed.
families like the ones that are sitting
Sit
behind
there
me.
and tell me that
Lost
you are
their children. They're
responsible
gone forever.
for the running of your agency when you're not even aware. Either you are utterly incompetent or you are violating laws with impunity. You should step down from your position. If you don't, you should be removed by this president. And if not, Congress should impeach you.
Yeah.
Now, you may say, well, that's what a Democrat will do. Well, North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis, Republican, ooh, he was on fire. And his was crazy. It's amazing what kind of guts you get when you choose not to seek re-election. Ever since he chose not to run for re-election, he's really been tearing into the Trump administration. It would be great if he has some Republicans who do choose to run for re-election, have that sort of courage and heart. Roll it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Noem, thank you for being here. I'm really glad that a lot of my Republican colleagues talked about the disaster that Biden and Mayorkas, your predecessor, created. It was absurd. You heard the things from Senator Brett, people that came over here who themselves were traumatized by the very people who then come to this country and traumatize American citizens. You heard Senator Schmidt saying the same thing. A lot of us are very frustrated with the disaster that President Biden left behind and a failed DHS. It's why I'm angry, and it's why I've been critical of you, Secretary Noem, because we're missing an opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the reasons President Trump won a year and a half ago is because people were sick and tired of a Democratic administration's open border policy and allowing millions of people to come to this country, 1.7 million called gotaways. We don't even know where they are, but we know when you pay a premium to a cartel to get them into this country, they're bad people. Now, why have I been critical of Secretary Noem? Because I don't think we're focusing on, we have limited resources. ICE can't be everywhere at once. There's very few people in Capitol Hill that support law enforcement more than me, including the sworn ICE officers. In fact, I've just been told, fortunately, in about a week and a half, we're going to get a plaque on the wall over the Capitol, thanking the Capitol police officers and all the agencies that responded on January 6th. All those thugs have actually been pardoned, and yet we haven't thanked the Capitol police officers for their work here. So when I say I'm unapologetically pro-law enforcement, you can count in every single sworn officer in Homeland Security. So why am I disappointed with Secretary Noem? Because we're not going after enough people who did this damage at the expense of running numbers that Stephen Miller wants out of the White House. We just want numbers. We want 1,000 a day, 6,000 a day, 9,000 a day, because numbers matter, right? No, they don't matter. Quality matters, not quantity, quality. And what we've seen is a disaster. Under your leadership, Ms. Noem, a disaster. What we've seen is innocent people getting detained that turn out are American citizens. I could talk about the culture that's been created here with Stephen Miller aiding and abetting. I heard first reports that he was the one that said it was a domestic terrorist situation where 2 people lost their lives in Minneapolis. I've heard that report. Maybe you can refute it. I don't know that we'll have time for you to respond because I'm giving you a performance evaluation here. I'm not looking for a response. And I'm saying, Ms. Noem, that time after time after time I've been disappointed. But before I get back to looking at the vicious people that did this damage to these families, I want to talk a minute about FEMA. You have a policy right now that anything over $100,000 has to go through your desk for approval. I asked my staff, because I'm a management consultant, I don't try to do cheap shots in here, but the facts do not lie. This is your administration for FEMA response. This is President Trump's first administration. Which one would you like to have? If you're a state that has a $60 billion disaster, your biggest disaster in South Dakota that I can tell that when you were an elected official was about $500 million. So 1/100th of this single storm where thousands of people are hurting in North Carolina and you're just barely catching up. This is what competent FEMA leadership looks like. This is what incompetent FEMA leadership looks like. And people are hurting in Western North Carolina from the most significant storm they've ever experienced. This is what we need more of. I'm convinced you can't do it. If you're requesting a review of $100,000 and up, then it begs the question, why? Why would you be involved in that? Why would that be a policy? And in a minute, I'll ask about some people that are involved, some special government employees. Why are they involved in it? Thank you.
Senator,
no.
That $100,000 only had to do.
And I will hold the clock until I finish.
Okay.
The bottom line is I've done the analysis. And you can say whatever you want to. I've worked with the Democrat governor. I've worked with the Republican governor. I've worked with fiscal research. We have people contacting my office now to get the information to better understand the failure of this department. You failed at FEMA. And in fact, if I get to it, actually, why don't I cover this right now? The Homeland Security Act of 2002 expressly prohibits the Secretary of Homeland Security from restricting or diverting FEMA resources from the agency's mission. Based on your disaster response, the chart that I just showed you, I have reason to believe that you're violating the law, either knowingly or unknowingly. So I'll be asking and getting a submission to the record, submitting a question for the record, what the total amount of FEMA reimbursements are currently being held by DHS, awaiting for final approval. Held by DHS, awaiting for final approval for an agency that you should not be obstructing the disbursement on. I'm going to give you time to answer to it under penalty of perjury so that we can get it right. Now, going back to Minneapolis, why can't we just say we made a mistake? I will ask you one question, if you can just give me a quick response. Who does Tom Homan work for? You or the president?
The president.
Okay. Why is that? Because I believe the president recognized that you weren't getting it done in Minneapolis, and you're putting us further away from pointing to this. We're beginning to get the American people to think that deporting people is wrong. It's the exact opposite. The way you're going about deporting them is wrong. The fact that you can't admit to a mistake, which looks like under investigation, is going to prove that Ms. Good and Mr. Petty probably should not have been shot in the face and in the back. Law enforcement needs to learn from that. You don't protect them by not looking after the facts. Not only should the FBI be investigating it, but every single law enforcement agency in that jurisdiction should be invited to it. So our law enforcement officers do not have this pall cast upon them. One of the reasons why ICE officers are having threats, and damn the people that threaten ICE officers, because so many of them are doing a good job, is because you've cast a pall on them by acting like we should investigate things differently. Officer-involved shootings have a formula that we should go through every time. And we're not going through that formula. As a matter of fact, in Ms. Good's case, I think that they were even saying that maybe there wasn't even a need to do it in the DOJ. I hope that that's changed. But I'm telling you, it was a civil rights review. I saw your frown. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But originally, Blanche said there wouldn't be an investigation. Folks, law enforcement, we've got to have their back. We've got to make it clear when they make a mistake, then they get corrected for it. But you don't walk away from it, and you've done it too many times. Now, Secretary, I read your book last week. And honestly, some of the parts of it impressed me, but some of it distresses me. And I'll give you a good example of one that does. The passage where you talk about killing a dog that was 14 months old. I train dogs, all right? And you are a farmer. You should know better. You should know that if you're going out to a hunting lodge and you're putting pheasants out and you're putting dogs out, you don't take a puppy out there. A 14-month-old dog is basically a teenager in dog years. You decided to kill that dog because you had not invested the appropriate time in training, and then you have the audacity to go into a book and say it's a leadership lesson about tough choices. It's in your book. We could play it if we had time. At that same lunch hour, you killed a goat. And you killed the goat because you said it was behaving badly. You are a farmer. You don't castrate a goat. They behave badly. You should have probably done that before. But my point is, those are bad decisions made in the heat of the moment, not unlike what happened up in Minneapolis. I expect we're an exceptional nation. And one of the reasons we're exceptional is we expect exceptional leadership. And you've demonstrated anything but that in the time that I've seen you responding to the emergency in North Carolina and across the Southeast, and acknowledging when mistakes are made, and speaking too soon for the expedient of social media or whatever it is. I'll leave you with this, Ms. Noem. I'm expecting answers to Charlotte's Web. I requested it a month ago. That was one of the investigations in Charlotte, 20 minutes from where I live. All I asked for, if it had to be anonymized, was information so that I could determine if your hit rate is right. I want to find more of those people, and I want to detain fewer of the others. And Mr. Chair, in my remaining time, I have a lot to go. But I want to submit this letter from the Office of Inspector General that cites 10 different instances under Ms. Noem's leadership where they've been misled and not allowed to pursue investigations that they think are critically important. Does anybody have any idea how bad it has to be for the OIG in this agency to come out and do this publicly? That is stonewalling, that's a failure of leadership, and that is why I've called for your resignation. And if I don't get an answer to these questions, I don't want an applause. Please don't do that for me. If I don't get an answer to these questions, if I don't get an answer that you've had a month to respond to, and the remaining ones, as of today, I'll be informing leadership that I'm putting a hold on any en bloc nominations until I get a response. And in 2 weeks, if I don't get a response, I'm going to deny quorum and markup in as many committees as I can until I get a response. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. How about them apples, Mustafa?
You know what, Secretary Tillis and I, we may not agree on lots of policies, but we do agree on what leadership looks like. You know, all those years that I worked in the federal government, I had the opportunity to work with secretaries, administrators of departments and agencies, and the buck always stopped with them and the senior leadership. And unfortunately, with the current folks, one, because they have a lack of experience. Many of them are put into jobs that they should never have. But, you know, unfortunately, they are there. So they either have a lot to learn or they're going to continue to make all these mistakes. I think sometimes they forget, Roland, you know, what the role of government actually is. All you have to do is go back to the Declaration of Independence, because one of the things government's purpose is to protect individuals' freedoms to live and be free. And when we talk about the folks that have been arrested or detained who are U.S. citizens, you are in violation of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, something that everybody learns, whether you're in elementary school or sometimes middle school, and they're failing at that. The basic core principles of who America is supposed to be, these folks are failing at. And they're failing because the leadership doesn't truly believe that, because if they did, there would be a different set of actions. So yes, as Secretary Tillis said, as Secretary Booker said, and many other folks, no one wants to see criminals inside of our country. But you continue to violate the law against United States citizens, and that is unacceptable. And until that changes, you are going to continue to have people who are going to push back because they do not trust that you understand what the rule of law is and how to apply it fairly. So that's the dynamic that's going on. Secretary Tillis was exactly correct, because I've worked with folks all across North Carolina who continue to say, when are the resources are going to come? Why are we invisible? Like so many environmental justice communities have been for decades, but now others are also feeling the invisibility, the erasure. And they're seeing resources that should be coming to their communities to help them to rebuild, be redirected to these sets of actions that no one is in support of, or very few people are in support of now. So I'm glad he said, what needed to be said, and so many others have been saying it as well. And it will also translate during the midterms when people vote.
Mateo.
So I want to start by answering Senator Booker's question on whether Kristi Noem is inept or she's willingly breaking the law. The answer is yes, in my opinion. That aside, there aren't a lot of people in my life, in history, that make my blood boil and that I find despicable. Kristi Noem certainly makes the top 5, probably. This is the same person. This is what I don't understand. This is the same person who, as stated in the video you showed, shot her dog because she could not train him. This is the same person, by the way, this was not said, this is the same person that as governor of her state was banned basically from tribal land because she had so many quarrel going on with tribal leaders and accused them even of benefiting from drug cartels. So this is the level of maturity and humanity. The president will accuse them of that with absolutely no foundation. This is the level of humanity this person has. And now we are surprised that she's calling people that are simply protesting domestic terrorists. We're surprised that she has taken DHS and turned a federal agency into a propaganda machine, into a machine that is focused solely, primarily, if not solely, on anti-free speech activities. She is forcing herself and federal authority, by the way, into areas that should clearly be local jurisdiction, local authority, because she wants to stop people from talking, from freely exercising their constitutional rights. And when they don't stop, when she introduces her agency and her force into those realities and people are unwilling to stop talking, she shoots them dead. And now she's using money, taxpayers' money, your money, my money, and she's buying jetliners with a bedroom in it. With the money that should go, by the way, not just to FEMA, not just to airport security, it's money that should go to the estates of Renee Good and Alex Preddy and all the people that have been shot and wounded and killed by the machine that she created, made of people that do not care about constitutional rights. They're looking at one thing. They're looking at whether you are exercising your constitutional rights and pissing them off, and then they're looking at the color of your skin or your accent or where you're located, and by that feel that you need to obey their orders no matter how unlawful they are. And if you don't, then you get shot. This is not just a crime, it is a stain in the history of our country.
Joe.
Tom Tillis is free as a bird nowadays, isn't he? God bless him. But here's the good news. Unless Jesus comes in the next 2.5 years, which really could happen. I mean, I tell you, the stuff that's going on right now. Kristi Noem will not always be DHS Secretary, and she might mess it up sooner than we think. She might not make it to the end of the term. And whatever happens, whatever needs to happen, because basically what she's done is she's gotten Republicans mad. And I got to tell you, with the way that Trump has done things over the last X number of years, that has taken something, because more often than not, they overlook what it is that's going on. But they understand, Tom Tillis understands the incompetence, understands the stain on law enforcement. If you are pro-law enforcement, then you would be supporting the law enforcement that did their job on January 6th, and many people lost their lives for doing so. First Republican I've heard talk about that in a minute. One day, though, Kristi Noem will not be DHS Secretary. One day, Pam Bondi will not be the Attorney General. And who knows, maybe with some luck, it'll be one day sooner or later. And whatever ought to come from the things that they've done, them breaking the law, them ignoring court orders, them doing things that are not only morally wrong, but legally wrong, I believe and hope that justice will be done as it pertains to them. And if that means criminal prosecution, you are presumed innocent until proven guilty, etc., it is absolutely worth looking into and to follow it wherever it leads. If you have questions about what, quote, DEI is supposed to be on the negative, This is it, putting people that are unqualified to be in positions. But for this administration, qualification hasn't been important. That's why there's so much brain drain. That's why when it comes to actually getting things done, they have problems getting things done, because the people that are competent, that have integrity, that actually care about their professions and see themselves having professions, for instance, a whole lot of people in the U.S. Attorney's Office, those guys have bounced because they know better. Nothing's worth losing your license. Nothing's worth being branded as someone that doesn't have any integrity. So I'm glad that this is being said. I'm glad that Republicans seem to pile on a little bit here too. But the truth is like that. The truth is going to be nonpartisan. And so hopefully this continues and it is followed with due process to its logical end, even if including but not limited to potential criminal prosecution for those that are ignoring and flouting and breaking the law under the guise of doing justice.
Absolutely. Let me thank Mateo, Joe, and Mustafa for being on today's show. Gentlemen, I certainly appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Folks, it's time for our Shop BlackStarNetwork.com marketplace. All right, folks. Now, understand that we focus on Black-owned businesses in our segment, in our marketplace. It's about supporting these companies and their particular products. And today we're talking curl prep. Ladies with natural hair understand how devastating shrinkage can be. Well, in 2009, Candace Kelly developed Curl Prep, a unique high-end styling system that's the ultimate solution for preventing hair shrinkage while adding moisture, shine, and nourishment. The products are made from ingredients from around the world to keep your hair healthy. Candace joins us now from South Orange, New Jersey. Normally she's talking about legal stuff. Now she's talking about hair. So Candace, for the folk who have no idea, what the hell is shrinkage?
Yeah, well, listen, if you're any Black woman or man in America or around the world, this is when water gets in your hair and your hair shrinks up. So a lot of women like their hair elongated. A lot of people like it shrink. You know, there are many beautiful ways to wear your hair in many different ways. But the line was specifically created to prevent shrinkage. Then we added other things in terms of moisture and different styles. And now we have things for braids. We have things for all types of styles that are out there. And so when we began this company, we really began it by learning ingredients. I started mixing in my kitchen because of my own need for hair products that were not out there, because we're talking a long time ago. So, you know, the Targets and Walmarts were not all over the place. So I would go up to Harlem. I would get shea butter right when people were allowed to be out in the mart, 125th Street, before they were asked to go other places. And I would come home and I would start mixing. And then when people would start asking me about my hair, again, long time ago, during the 90s, then I said, you know what? I should really do something about this, because they were asking how to do hair, about moisture, what about this, what about that? So I knew a lot, and I would research about emollients and humectants and what olive oil and shea butter would do with your hair. And then people encouraged me enough to actually just finally start a hairline. I say it just fell into my lap, but it is something that I've been doing, as you said, since 2009. And folks who really know me, they know that I have put on hundreds of natural hair shows, from New York to Virgin Islands to Virginia. So I have been all over just doing this type of work and teaching women about their hair, and then giving them a product, giving them the solution that we're talking about tonight. And that is my Curl Prep line. And I have the 3 most popular products from the line here. I have them here and you have them there.
So you started mixing in your kitchen?
Yeah, I started mixing in my kitchen. Listen, we're going back to 1995. I worked at Court TV, and my coworker told me my hair was inappropriate for the workplace. There was really nobody, not in my world, okay, that was wearing their hair naturally, and especially not on TV. I mean, we're talking a long time ago. The movement, when we talk about natural hair movement, we're talking about 2008. So I've just always worn my hair natural, and so
was that a white colleague or a Black colleague that said your hair was?
Colleague.
Huh?
That was a white colleague.
Yeah,
Though
that your
the
hair
black
was
colleagues,
inappropriate
too,
for TV.
inappropriate for the workplace, and I worked at Court TV. Absolutely. She didn't understand it. She did, because nobody was wearing their hair like that. And even my black colleagues, I have a girlfriend who remind me, yeah, I did look at you and start calling you Raggedy Ann because my hair was, big and curly. People just were not used to that. And so I would have to go into my kitchen and mix my products, add the olive oil, add the shea butter, add, the tea tree oil, all the properties about rosemary. What's wonderful is that there are a lot of things in your kitchen that you can do and put on your hair, and it works out well. What I've done is I've made it easier for women and men and children and seniors and even people who have fake hair, whether it's their wigs or things of that nature. These products really work across the board. And as I said, I've traveled to various shows. In the video that you've been seeing, people will take a seat, sit down, try the product, buy the hair, buy the product. And we've been very successful, and that's why I've kept it going all of these years.
All right, so the bigger the butter, what is this?
Yes, the bigger the butter. I want you to smell it, see if you like the smell. It smells islandy, papaya, mango, and it's very light. I like to say, as I've been saying since 2009, a little goes a long way in terms of creating a two-strand twist or a wash and go. For people who don't understand that language, the wash and go, it isn't exactly a wash and go. For some people, it has been a wash and no. But the key is really saturating your damp hair with some bigger the butter, and then finishing off with the sweet defining gel. And then you get yourself a nice curly look. I use it in my hair today.
So you use both of these together. You use both of these together.
Yes, you do. First you run this through your hair, the butter, and that elongates your curls and your hair. Then you hold that elongation in place with a little bit of the gel. And then you dry it with
I used to have a fro that had like some serious huge curls, but that was back in the day.
Yeah. So now how would you take care of your curls? A little moisture, right? Goes a long way.
Girl, please. I'd throw some water on.
One of the
First
things
of all,
is
black
that
people, black people either use Ultra Sheen or Blue Magic.
Now this is true. And here's what I'll say about that. There's a lot of talk online about.
Now you can't find Ultra Sheen now. Like literally,
cannot.
You cannot find Ultra Sheen. It's a damn shame. The little green and the blue. Yep.
Yeah. Or my dad had a really big one, and it is old, but there's still some left. I mean, it was one of those big ones.
Matter of fact, I think if you go to Amazon, I think it's like $100. So I guess they stopped making it. Damn, Johnson was the maker of that. But but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting, and this is what I want women to understand about their hair, and we're much more informed. But in terms of when I was first doing classes and teaching people how to do their hair, is that our hair is it breaks easier. Why? Because think about it this way. You think about a curly piece of pasta, right? And on that curly piece of pasta, there are a lot of breaking points as opposed to a straight piece of hair. So that's why we have to manage and deal with our hair more gingerly than if our hair were straight. And that's just the truth. That's how our hair was made beautifully. But we also have to understand that we know our skin is our largest organ on the body. So whether you were feeding it with Ultra Sheen or whether you're feeding it with curl prep, whether you're feeding with olive oil, you have to feed your hair moisture, or else it will dry out and it will not be good to you. It will not be a good look. So that's another part of my mission in doing these types of things and bringing women and men, right, across the board in terms of ages together to learn how to do their hair and provide them with something that is going to be good and nutritious for your hair. You really have to feed your hair the same way that you feed food. You should never, your body food, you should never leave your house without some moisture. It might be in the shower, right? But we need that moisture and that food to go into our hair, our largest,
all right, so
our largest organ.
What is Good Morning Goddess?
So Good Morning Goddess is when you have your style. And so when I wake up tomorrow, this might be a little dead, right? And a little bit flat. I spray this on my hair, and then I kind of just puff it out like that. It's very, very light.
Mine
it's
not
a
gonna
mist,
pop out.
and so yours not gonna pop. That's all right. You know what? Let me look at your hair. So Roland, what's really going to be good for you is the butter. What's going to be good for you is the butter. The butter is going to moisten your hair, give a little bit of a curl.
I keep a bristle brush right here, so go ahead.
All
Okay,
right,
so
now
the
we're
butter.
gonna have to talk about
all right,
that.
so the butter.
Yes.
What, the bristle brush is bad or something?
Well, it's very hard. You're gonna want yourself.
No, baby,
I don't know.
this is
it
soft
sounded
one.
pretty hard when it was
This,
hitting
no,
your head.
this is a soft one, baby. That's a soft one.
That's a soft one. Okay.
Okay, what is this?
Okay, good.
So what am I supposed to do with this butter?
You will do well with the butter.
What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, and then put it on your hair. Right now, the more you put in it, and the more that you work it, it's gonna curl up on you, bro. It's gonna curl up on you.
This ain't curling up. I got waves, I got curls, but it ain't curling up.
So here's why. So for people who are wondering, okay, what's my curl pattern, and it won't curl up, it won't do this. What you need to do, process-wise, when you wash your hair, get out of the shower, don't put anything on it. That is your hair in natural state. For many women, when their hair
out of the shower, I don't put anything on. I usually, in the morning when I'm ready to go, I'll put something on. But the only time I put something on is if I'm leaving the house. Otherwise, I don't put nothing on. If you're leaving the house. I don't put nothing on. I don't put nothing on.
And then it's just straight.
Yeah, I just brush it. And literally, I throw water on it. I throw water on it.
So, right.
Brush it, I go on.
All right, so you manipulated it a little bit, and that makes sense.
I just throw water on it.
In other words, you did not come out of your mother's womb rolling with straight hair. This is what I'm saying.
When I had a fro, like it was. I mean, I had like huge curls. Like it was like huge.
Yeah, I saw a picture you posted.
Big curls, big curls.
Yeah, big curls, big curls. Yeah, if you and here's the thing about hair too. You can train your hair to do what you want, right? So you have been training your hair to brush it in a way where your hair has responded to it. And that's why it lays down more naturally. If you didn't touch your hair for the next couple of weeks, your hair would be different, and it would revert back to a curl pattern. Not like when you were younger, but it would be a curl pattern.
Yeah, it was funny because like my brother, he did his hair forward. I've always brushed mine back. I never done. Like he had like the flat top. I never want a flat top. That's never gonna happen.
Really? Yeah,
nope.
yeah.
So never gonna happen.
These products, as I said, they come with a lot of true testing. Every time I visit somewhere, if I go to Jamaica, I'm trying to look for the best shea butter to put in, or I go to the aloe fields. I do a lot in order to try to figure out what is out there, what is changing, and how these products can maintain what they're supposed to do. Our motto is, you won't believe it's your hair, because we have showed women that they can manipulate their hair in so many ways to do so many amazing things. It's about the product, which is a good product. It's also about how you use the product too.
So let me go ahead and say this to some of y'all right now, because I've told the people this on social media. I don't give a shit what y'all think about my hair. Let me be real clear.
You want to take this time?
No.
Now?
These people are stupid, okay? I love these people talking about, dog, you should go bald. Okay, let me be real clear, okay? First of all, you could talk about thinning hair here. I got way more damn hair, but in a bunch of bald-ass people. I literally spend 30 seconds on my hair. Why the hell would I go bald? And it's gonna take me a long ass time to be constantly, because this is gonna grow back. It's gonna grow back. Right. I'm not doing that bullshit. I literally do not. I need people to be real clear. I don't care what none of y'all think. None of y'all.
Well, you bring up a good point. Because
like these people like stupid. Like when you say, oh, you should go bald. Let me say it again. Okay, you may say, well, oh my goodness, your hair is thinning. Yes, hair is thinning here. But This is a lot of hair. Your ass gonna have to be constantly shaving if you go bald. That's stupid. That's too much work. I spend 30 seconds. 30. I could. I could. If I take this butter, this bigger than butter, I literally take something, put it in my hand, do this, brush it, walk my ass out the house. Why would I now add 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes and constantly trying to shave this off, constantly trying? That's too much damn work. Y'all kiss my ass, every single one of y'all. I done told these folks on social media. I don't.
Yeah.
I literally do not care what people think.
Yeah. You know, you bring up a good point that a lot of women know when we go ahead and get the pixie cut, which is lovely. But let that pixie cut do wrong by you, and the maintenance on it is just ridiculous. But it's pretty when it is done. And you're right. When you do go bald, once it comes in a little bit, then you have to maintain it and you have to cut it. But when you do, use curl prep while you're at it. This is all I'm saying.
Listen, I don't give a damn what I need people to understand something. If my mama and my daddy and my brother and my 2 surviving sisters and my 9 nieces and my 4 nephews and my wife and my frat brothers, if all of them said, go bald, I would tell all of them, I don't care what y'all think. It does not matter. I am not spending that much time on some damn hair. And I'm sure as hell ain't pleasing nobody out there who say, oh man, you should go bald. I literally do not give a damn. So folks,
even if someone said, but if you cut your hair, it would make you look younger.
Don't give a shit. First of all, that's stupid. Okay, if you cut your hair, you're gonna look younger. I'm 57. Okay, I don't care what you think. I literally don't care. If somebody says, look, people, I like a thicker beard. I don't. I'm trimming that damn thing. Sorry, it ain't happening. From Christmas to January, I let my beard grow for a month. That was driving my ass crazy when I got back from vacation. I let it go for 2 more weeks. I said, hell no, it got to come down. I can't. I couldn't even stand looking at it, hair sticking. I can't do it. So yeah, I don't care. I don't care. I think
the bottom line, the takeaway I tell you really is whatever you do, whatever length you have, whatever you do to your beard, add moisture. That's the key thing in terms of making your hair vibrant on your beard, on your head.
Candy.
And you add moisture, so you're good to go. I
ain't got that much hair to be adding no moisture.
But you're good to go. You add moisture. You said you put water on.
Listen. When I remember I was at CNN, one of the makeup artists, she's like, oh my God, you have great skin. Yeah. What do you use? I was like, nothing. She's like, what do you mean? I said, shampoo and it run down my face. She literally thought, I said, I'm not sitting here wasted. I had a facial once and I was like, that's it? I said, I ain't spending all this time sitting doing no damn facial. So no, I don't put stuff on. I don't put no. Listen, mama and daddy together makes for some great ass DNA.
I see.
So I'm born with, I don't put all that stuff. I saw some sister, Lord, I follow her on Instagram. Her ass went through this whole damn routine. I was just sitting there going, girl, how long does it take for you to get out the bathroom? Because she was applying stuff. She put a infrared mask on. She y'all, it's too much.
But listen, Roland, for the hair, you especially, if you are growing your hair or want your hair, you do have to take those steps to be very, very kind to it. Or else your hair will do, my girlfriend used to call it HBO, your hair is going to bail out on you if you do not treat it properly. And so that's why women who want to maintain length and want to maintain healthy hair, you have to take those steps. And a lot of them will take a Friday night every 2 weeks, and they know they're going to be home for 4 hours and get their hair right.
Hey, y'all do it right. Listen, I will sit here. I got some water in this container. I can sit here and do a splash. Boom, we done. That ain't
You are blessed.
That ain't 30
You're
seconds.
blessed.
We can move. I'm telling you, that's way too much time. That's just I don't get these people. That's way too much time. So y'all listen. Get your hair straight. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sit aside the blue magic, and I'm gonna try to now. Does the bigger and the butter, does it give it a sheen or a shine?
The bigger the butter gives it a little shine. It does. Yes.
Little shine. Okay, all right.
Little
So
shine, yes.
somebody said menopause will take your hair out. That's in the chat group.
That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
I ain't got no experience. I don't know.
Well, menopause. Well, and I get a lot of women who say, "Well, what can I do to grow my hair back? What can I do to grow my hair back?" A lot of it is going to take a special doctor to bring your hair back. But in the meantime, to keep the hair that you do have, right? Before you go to, I think what's called a trichologist.
I don't know.
Make sure that you feed your hair the food the way that you feed your hair. Feed your body food too. You just have to keep that moisture. Your skin is an organ. I knew somebody who would get relaxers years and years ago, and every time she'd get a relaxer, she would feel sick just for a couple of days. And that's because there was so much sodium.
All the chemicals. Listen,
the chemicals, yeah.
Dick Gregory
they
used to go off.
Out.
And listen, it's a lot of people I know who firmly believe that all those chemicals has an impact on fibroids and other things. And Dick Gregory used to always go off. He's like, don't you understand? You put a relaxer on your head, which is attached to your brain. And
That's right.
like...
And it's burning.
He was a firm believer in that. So I got you. All right, folks, if y'all are watching, do me a favor. We've got, again, the bigger the butter. We've got the sweet defining gel. And then we've got Good Morning Goddess. Good Morning Goddess. Happy hair. 8 ounces right here. If y'all want to get the products, Curl Prep, go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Shopblackstarnetwork.com. You see the products right there on the website. You can get them right there. And remember, when you support buying these products, you also support Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. Candace, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
All right. Good to see you.
All right, y'all. So we got these products. So let me go ahead and do this here. So I got this. I got this here. Let me go ahead and take these here. Let me walk these over here. So y'all know as we got all these products over here. And so we're going to add Curl Prep to zoom the camera out. Y'all, it's too tight. What are y'all doing? It's too tight. Zoom the camera out. Zoom it out. Zoom it out. Also, this thing is not, man, okay, I'm gonna have a conversation later. Don't make me cuss right now. Okay, y'all, so I'm gonna add Curl Prep right here to our products. All these products you see right here, all of these products you see right here, you can get at shopblackstarnetwork.com. Shopblackstarnetwork.com. You support these black-owned companies. You support the show as well. Folks, that's it for us. Don't forget, if you want to support the work that we do, join our Bring the Funk fan club. If you want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. It's also for credit cards as well. Check some money order. Make it payable to P.O. Box 571. First of all, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Address is P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. PayPal's R. Martin Unfiltered, Venmo, RM Unfiltered, Zelle. Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Samsung Smart TV. If you want to get our Roland Martin Unfiltered swag, go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Hats, t-shirts, mugs, all that good stuff. And, of course, all of our products right here. Download the app Fanbase. That's right. Go to the Apple Store, Google Play Store to get Fanbase. And don't forget, check out Brittany Noble's, the Breakdown with Brittany Noble every day, noon Eastern on the Black Star Network. That's every day. All right, folks, that's it. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.